was born 300 years ago this Sunday, November 24th, and became one of the greatest Franciscan missionary preachers who helped to evangelize California. And we'll learn more about him tonight on EWTN Live, so please stay with us. Thank you very much. I'm Father Mitch, and welcome to EWTN Live, our chance to bring you guests from all over the world. And before we get to tonight's topic, we also want to remember our brothers and sisters in the Philippines after the deadliest earthquake in 23 years that hit Cebu City less than a month ago, killing over 200 people and injuring close to 1,000. Then, on November 7th, Super Typhoon Haiyan, also known as Yolanda, hit the region, killing almost 4,000 people in the Philippines alone. Now, you know our friends, the missionaries of the poor, who have missions in the Philippines, in Cebu and in Manila. Joining us now on the line from Kingston, Jamaica, with an update on relief efforts in the Philippines is the founder of the Missionaries of the Poor, Father Richard Ho Lung. Father Richard?
Hi, Father Mitch. How are you?
Well, thank you. How are you doing?
Great.
So tell us what's going on with the relief efforts in the Philippines.
Well, the brothers are in Leyte now at Tacloban, and they're finding it very difficult because there's no electricity or water, and many people are refugees, and some people have been left behind on the island. The brothers are there, and they're going from place to place, helping as much as they can. Many of the people, however, have come to Cebu, which is close by, and we have a refugee home there that we're using. At least it's a home, but we're using it for refugees for the moment. And children, adults are there. We're short of supplies, food, of course, and medication. We're short also of mattresses and like stoves and implements in the kitchen.
Sure, I'm sure clothes and all the rest as well. I mean, they lost everything.
They lost everything. Everything was just lowered, all the homes. And people are seeking refuge both in Manila, but especially in Cebu, which is nearby, where we've got a monastery and also our apostolates. And people are coming there in large numbers.
Well, yes?
The people really are desperate there. And but they're very quiet and peaceful and prayerful people, thank God. Yes. What I would recommend, Father, is this, that rather than sending goods, because there is a problem that the government, they will announce, as they have internationally, that charitable organizations can receive goods without any hindrance. But I think that's more political, and locally, they're being very much controlled. All the charities being controlled. So the brothers are saying it's best really to send what we call virtual containers of things, which would be like food, and also to help us also to be able to purchase other supplies like bedding,
sure,
mattresses.
Right. All the other necessities that everybody has.
That's right.
Right. What we're going to do, Father Richard, is put up a way to help, for people to help contribute to the relief effort.
Yes.
Let me read that out to them. So if you would, there are a couple ways to do this. And again, as Father Richard mentions, it's very good to go through the church. It gets to the people much more surely and with less loss than anybody else. So the Missionaries of the Poor, you can write to them at P.O. Box 29893. That's in Atlanta, Georgia, 30359. Or you can also call them 404-248-1197. And of course, you can go to their website, which is missionariesofthepoor.org. Any checks make out to MOP Philippine Hurricane Relief, and they will get things out there. Plus, I just got an email thanking us for our help already. The Philippine Jesuits Relief Efforts also is doing a lot there. You can go to www.phjesuits.org, and they're also getting stuff out there. Father Holung, thank you very much. And we'll keep you, your brothers who are doing that great work over there, and all the people suffering in the Philippines. Thank you much.
Thanks a lot, Father Mitch.
You're welcome.
Okay, God bless you.
You too. All right, now we do have guests for tonight's show who have put their own filmmaking and historical research skills together to create a compelling 5-part docudrama on the life of Blessed Junipero Serra, which premieres tonight on EWTN, about a half hour after this show is over. Here to tell us how the project came about and what they learned about the life and charism of Blessed Junipero Serra, please welcome the producer and director of Serra, Ever Forward, Never Back, Mr. Jim Kelty, and the historical and spiritual advisor for the film, Father Joseph Scerbo. Father,
thank you.
Good to have you. Jim, good to have you on here. So, welcome here.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, you also are a friar, and Blessed Junípero was a Franciscan missionary to this country. How did you two get started on this project?
For me, it started when I was 17 years old, because when I received my habit as a Franciscan friar in 1961, they gave me the name Junípero after Junípero Serra.
Oh.
So that was my religious name for 7 years. And then when I came to California, we went back to our baptismal names during Vatican II. But when I went to California, I began to know about this man by living at San Juan Capistrano for 7 years.
There you go. Which is a really
the gem.
Just great missions. You can see so much if you get back there, not just for the swallows anymore. You can go there for looking at the mission and a very vibrant community.
Yeah. And through a mutual friend, then I met James Kelty, and we knew that we had a project together.
Great. So what motivated you besides being asked by a friar?
It was the other way around. I asked him, but
Okay.
I met him through, like he says, as he said, a mutual acquaintance who was a person who interprets Junípero Serra in California. I have an interest in California history that goes back about 15, 20 years. I've been in the States in '79 and did a lot of museum media in California history and developed an interest in it. And of course, the missions are a fundamental story in California.
Absolutely.
They're the founding structure of the state, really.
I mean, driving up I-10 or Highway 101 is like going through a litany of the saints.
Yeah,
the friars established all these missions, and it became cities and towns that we still have.
El Camino Real. Yeah, exactly. And I live in Mission Country, and halfway between LA and San Francisco on the coast in Central California. So we live with this story quite viscerally. I mean, one of the expeditions that founded the missions and explored the northern part of California came through the town I live in, Cambria, and camped there. We know they did. We don't know exactly where. But things like that brought this to me in a personal way.
Sure.
And so it was a natural to do it. And it's been in the works about 10 years or longer when I met with Monsignor Weber, who's the archivist in the Diocese of Los Angeles. And he's been an inspiration and a pillar of strength in this project. And I'd like to thank him for helping us.
Nice, yeah.
And Father Joe and I have been beavering away at it for 2 years now.
Now, I was able to see not all of it, but sections of the video, and you're doing again in 5 parts the life of Blessed Junípero in a docudrama that you have documentary commentators and you have dramatizations of events from his life. How did you choose that format?
This evolved over time. I like to try new things. I think it is interesting to try to have those 3 elements. We also had location footage. We went to the places where the events, where Serra was born, Palma, Mallorca, filmed there, Mexico, where he established and built beautiful churches there. We went to these places and filmed there as well, found experts who knew about the story, and built it up from there. I've got a great love of film and drama, and I wanted to bring Serra to life. And talking about him is one thing, but actually bringing him into the being of an actor who incorporated his spirit, that was the challenge I wanted to have. And well, the audience will be the judge of it, but
Sure,
I think we did well.
No, it's very nicely done, very well done. And it's you get a feel. What would be some of the main issues? Oh, and also I just want to make sure, even before we get to that, I want to mention that Blessed Junipero Serra is one of 4 priests who are in Statuary Hall in Washington.
Right.
There's in the Washington
In the
Rotunda,
yeah.
there's a hall of statues from each state. And he is one of 4 priests, along with Father Marquette and Father Kino from Arizona, and of course Father Damien from Hawaii. So this is a great legacy of the missions that helped build this nation. And what would be some of the key elements of Father Junípero that you want to deal with?
Well, I wanted to develop his relationships with key people. Of course, the story has great scale. I mean, it was an enormous operation. It was the biggest expedition in New Spain ever up to that time. So we wanted the scale, but I really wanted to try and develop his relationships with key people. First of all, his relationship with his biographer and lifelong friend, Friar Francisco Palou. His relationship with the military commander Portola and the Viceroy's representative in Mexico, from Spain, Galvez, and certainly and most importantly, his relationship with the Indians.
As a matter of fact, we've got a clip of from the film where Father Serra and another Franciscan are discussing their interaction with the natives, the Native Americans. Should we take? It's called the Mystic Vineyard. Should we take a look at that right now and then come back to you? Let's pitch to that.
Requiem aeternam, dona eis Domine, et lux perpetua luceat eis. Requiescat in pace. Amen.
What's this?
I don't know, Father.
What is this? I found it in the graveyard. They put it in the hands of a woman who died last evening. She was Shumash. This is sacred to them. We toil in the mystic vineyard. Yes. At night, I see them. See who? Lights. Moving in the darkness. Almas del fuego. Moving from one place to another. Souls. We came together for God. Tatn kaung. Meju kutau kunju. Amen. You speak Pame still. We learn native languages. And we learn native symbols. To understand the hearts and the minds of native people.
Tell us, what's going on in that scene?
Well, there are many things going on in the scene, but one thing that touches my heart is the way in which Father Serra holds the precious, valued shell, symbolizing what Native Americans found very important. And just recently, I was given a necklace of shells from the Guañeño people at San Juan Capistrano, who wanted to thank me for being a part of their lives. So these shells that I happened to bring tonight, I was just holding on to them, thinking of those, my friends, the Guañeño people of San Juan Capistrano, part of the Yahashiman Nation, gave me these shells, one of the most precious things that they can give me as a sign of friendship and as a way of seeing something that they value so important living on the coast.
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so this is part of his relationship that with the local people, the Native Americans. There were a wide variety of tribes, were there not?
There were, and I think the key in this interaction is the way that Father Serra embraced what was important to them. And I think of two cultures coming together at their best moments, as Roger Schutz, the founder of Taizé, said, there's no reconciliation between two cultures unless they have gifts to bring to each other. And so I think that opens up a way to see how a man could imagine what's real for another and bring the gift that he was bringing as well to them. So it was a mutual exchange, and that I think is the beauty.
Right.
Well, we wanted also to call attention to the fact that they learned native languages in the apostolic colleges. The apostolic colleges were a distinctly Franciscan institution in which the friars in the convent learned native languages. They learned how to conduct a mission, all the logistical problems they were going to face on the frontier with native people. And so he's referring to the fact that they learned those languages when they were at the College of San Fernando in Mexico City, which we learn about in this episode as well. So I wanted to reinforce that idea that the friars just didn't go into the wilderness and start preaching to people in Spanish. No, they went in the native languages. They made the effort to meet them more than halfway and to have it be a cultural exchange.
See, that's one of the things that also a lot of folks don't know is the Franciscans, the Jesuits up in Canada recorded the languages. Oftentimes writing down the first grammars, dictionaries, etc. And those records tell us a lot more, because in many places the languages have been forgotten by contemporary people, but they can go back to what the missionaries did, because, as you said, they cherished these other cultures and spoke to them on their terms.
Absolutely.
We have another clip of Father Junípero Serra meeting Native Americans over in part 4. So do you want to set that up for us at all?
When the expedition left from Loreto in southern Baja California, there were 2 land expeditions that moved north. Scerbo was in one, and a lead group was in the other one. Scerbo was traveling with Portola, and when they got to what's called the frontier, that is to say the last outpost, it was called Velicata, and that was the last extent of the known mapped, explored territory, which had been explored by Jesuits, by the way. When they got to Velicata, Serra got his first chance to meet Indians who had never been contacted before, at least for several centuries. They were virtually pure.
Unaware
and he
of
considered them that way,
European.
and so I wanted to reenact that meeting.
Okay, let's take a look at that.
Father, some Indians are nearby. They would like to meet you.
Miracle boy. First you cure my leg. Then you bring me the most joyous news in my life. One more miracle, please. Help me to get up.
Bastón. 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 Amigo. 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 Gracias. 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 Gracias.
Which nation was that he was meeting there? Do you remember?
Kumeyaay.
Kumeyaay. And did they eventually accept his preaching and such?
The Kumeyaay had, well, it was a difficult story with them. They were also the tribe in northern Baja and the San Diego area with whom the Spaniards had conflict.
Okay.
And we'll see that in another episode. But they were a very structured, organized society with very strong beliefs and a strong identity, and they resisted. Mm-hmm. And they are definitely a strong element in the story.
Okay.
I think the beauty of what we just saw was that first encounter. And, you know, Helen Keller and her teacher found a word that would communicate to each other, the first word. And I was thinking about their learning each other's the words for things that were close to them, brought them into an encounter that was very exciting. Mm-hmm. Father Serra wrote to the Viceroy of Mexico and said the people that he met, the Native Americans, stole his heart. And I think if we see through the lens of his motto, which he earned the title to, always going forward, never turn back, for the love of God. It was for the love of God, a treasure that was inside of him that he wanted to bring, and to be open to the treasures that he found. And you could see it in his face in that encounter. I think that encounter sums up the beauty of the contact that he felt and he treasured all his life.
You know, I've been to San Diego many times. My father and grandparents had lived there a number of years toward the end of their lives. And one of the things I notice, you can't help, is that there is one area near Old Town San Diego called the Presidio, which is where the Spanish government had its headquarters in these days. But the mission is not there. Why was that?
Well, I think there are a lot of explanations of that. We know the story of who came over with Father Serra on those boats, and many of the Spaniards were in prison. So rather than dying in prison, they came out to find another way, and they came not with good intentions and were actually a problem to Serra all his life, because they did abuse, and they exploited and took advantage. And this is one of Father Serra's great sorrows in California, which maybe made him think that his mission failed because of the maltreatment from the Spaniards who came alongside of them for other reasons.
Yes. Yeah, that's, when you have people whose option is prison or come over here, it's not as if they have a great formation morally to begin with. That they haven't
That's
quite done the process of rehabilitation and all that, and so they're going to bring whatever it was that got them in prison in the first place.
Look at Serra. Has anyone experienced being in a double bind? Well, that was Father Serra, and how he tried to separate, the soldiers and protecting the Native Americans from their cruelty.
Right. It's complicated by the fact that we look at the Spanish soldiers as all kind of one. They weren't. The soldados who were trained and educated by the Jesuits at the Presidio of Loreto, and they were the core body, were very professional and very disciplined. There were some that came from Sonora, and you had some bad hombres in there, okay? The other thing, of course, is that the Padres were well aware of the depredations against women especially that could occur, and so they they did separate the missions from the Presidio. And this was a big issue, because when the mission in San Diego was burned in 1775 in a Kumeyaay attack and killed Father Jaime at that time, the complaint by Serra was, why didn't you come and help? And the Presidio said, too far away, we didn't hear it. And Serra didn't buy that, and so there was always that conflict, tension between Serra and the military, sacred mission, military mission, and so forth.
And I think it's important, for people to realize that the missionaries were not the explorers for the empires trying to conquer more land. The missionaries, no matter which of the orders they were, wanted to save souls for Christ. That was their concern. And this was something that, it was tense all over the New World. That was often a problem. Yeah. We have another clip from part 3, and this deals with Father Junípero Serra's interaction with the military. Now we're talking about here. It speaks of the strength of his faith versus the strength of arms and weapons. So anything else you want to set up on that?
This is the only scene we had between Serra and Jose de Galvez. Galvez was the king's representative in Mexico and basically the driving force between the Sacred Mission, which was the expedition north of California. Galvez organized it all and pushed it hard. And he enlisted Serra. And this is a meeting that they had before the Serra was to leave.
Okay, let's take a look.
It's a portion of the meeting.
On behalf of the king, let me thank you. 20 years in New Spain.
19.
How old are you?
I'm 53 years of age on the 24th of next month.
Not a young man.
And yourself, if you don't mind my asking.
I enjoy one great advantage in life. I know my limitations. And I am not the one going into a land filled with savages who have never seen a Spanish priest.
They've never seen a Spanish sword or a musket either. And there is my advantage.
So
Checkmate, as Jim
yeah,
said.
yeah. So that that tension, and there had been tension before because in the earlier part of the episodes, there, as you mentioned, Jesuits had already been in the missions in what's now Arizona, northern Mexico, and Baja California in Mexico. And because of tensions from the Masonic members of the government in France, Portugal, and less so in Spain, but that tension got the Jesuits removed from all Spanish territories and French and Portuguese territories. The movie The Mission deals with that. And so Father Serra tried to help them, but he's taken over, and he saw that tension between the government with the Jesuits, and he knew in the movie, he also says, what do they do to me as well? I mean, he doesn't trust the Spanish government dealing with the missions with him any more than they did with the Jesuits. So he's aware of those tensions.
I always ask, how does a man hold the tensions that he had to hold? And this is one of the tensions that you see dramatically. And I think the only one that can hold the tension are the contemplatives in the church. And here is a man of prayer who trusted in prayer and who also used his humor, and he was a very wise man who was a professor for many years in Mallorca. So he was a prudent man, a wise man, and as Bishop Chaput said, he's a man of audacity. And when we asked him, what is audacity, as you see Father Serra, he said, the man who is able to have a vision and to go forward, and a man who is capable of encouraging others towards that vision.
Well, we have to take a break. Again, this documentary is called Serra, Ever Forward, Never Back. And this is available at EWTN Religious Catalog, which you can go to, just go into www.ewtnreligiouscatalog.com, or you can also call them at 1-800-854-6316. All right, we'll be back in a couple minutes. I want to get your questions and your comments, so please stay with us. Thank you and welcome back. First, I want to invite you to come here on pilgrimage if you get a chance. Come over here for our masses and such. And we just ask that you contact our pilgrimage department. Their phone number is 205-271-2966. Or you can go to our website, EWTN.com, and they'll give you information about the schedule of masses, programs where you can be part of the studio audience, and information about places to stay, to eat. I don't know, you folks from California, you two might just need to get some Alabama barbecue or some fried green tomatoes. All that stuff is right over here. So come on down and be part of our family over here. And are you ready for some questions?
Yes.
All right, let's start off with Lorraine. Hello, Lorraine.
Hello, Father. How are you?
Fine. Where are you from?
Florida.
Great. And your question?
Well, I feel a little uncomfortable asking this question, but since you have a couple of experts on, I thought I'd go ahead and ask. I was attending a Bible study, Catholic Bible study, up until about a month and a half ago, and there was a Franciscan priest in our Bible study, and somehow the subject of Father Serra came up. We're talking about California and the missions, and he was saying that a lot of the Indians who are descendants of the Indians that he worked with and converted in the missions had told him or a friend of his that they didn't know why he was even being considered for sainthood because he used to beat the Indians. Okay. And that, I wound up saying something like, I don't think it's fair to judge people of yesterday by today's standards, but, it just made me have that doubt, and I would just like some clarification on that.
Lorraine, we have the gentleman to take care of that. So what about this?
Well, first
Do you
of all,
hear this often?
Of course, and first of all, it's a very complex issue. And did Sarah ever personally beat any Indian? No, not from any record that we have. I would like to be shown that if that can be proven. However,
so in other words, because you heard the way the priest reported it, somebody told some of these Native Americans who told somebody that he knows, and so this won't stand up in court. There's no evidence.
But they were treated harshly, and there's a
by Father Serra.
There were the issue was complex. For example, if you stole food, or if you stole a horse, both Indians and white people were whipped, because that was the punishment for stealing. So you have to look at the context in what was going on, and some contexts were absolutely cruel. And Father Serra walked all the way to Mexico City to contest one cruel judgment on one Native American. On that alone shows his love for the Indians and his pain. I'm sure he was pained by anything he saw that would hurt the people that stole his heart.
Right. So that in the case of one Native American who was, I guess, beaten, he pled his cause at a court in Mexico.
Well, this man was up for execution.
Okay, all right.
It actually involved an Indian who had participated in the attack that had killed the Padre in San Diego.
I see.
They had captured several of them, and they were in jail in San Diego, and the commander there, Rivera, wanted to execute them. Serra wrote to the viceroy demanding that they be pardoned. The viceroy eventually did pardon them, and and Serra asked for the excommunication of Rivera, which was granted, and Rivera was excommunicated. Rivera actually, one of the Indians was hiding in the church, or the friars had given him refuge in the church, which was inviolable under Spanish law.
And he went in and did it anyway.
And he went in and dragged him out. I don't know if that's the story you're referring to. Serra's trip to Mexico was in 1772 to rectify some other administrative problems and so forth that they had. But he's on record as saying that if they kill me, there's to be no retribution against them. That's on record. He's on record saying that the murderers of Father Jaime in San Diego are to be pardoned. He's on record for that. So the accounts that he beat people, which aren't recorded, I don't know. I mean, what are you going to do with that? Can you categorically deny it? No. Can you look at Serra's character and his record and everything he wrote? He kissed the ground when he met the first Indians at Velicata. His love for them it's uncontestable, all right? But we can't categorically say that abuses didn't occur.
Well, see, again, it's hard without evidence to say you can't prove it or disprove it. That cannot stand up in court. including the court of public opinion. If you have the data, show the data.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then don't make stuff up. That's key.
There's always excessive exaggeration of the known, and we have that today in our society. But
No.
I wanted to share with you one thing, and that was an interfaith meeting on Mount Baldy 2 months ago. All the religions of the world were present to come together for a service. And they asked me to speak, and I said, I'm very grateful. We need to work together to overcome fundamentalism and work to hear in another the voice of our own suppressed longing. A Native American heard that, standing next to me. She started to cry. So her tears were flowing from her cheeks, and I knew her, and I went before her, and I just knelt down in front of her, and I looked up with my hands up and said, if any of my brothers have hurt your people, please forgive me. I am so sorry. And I promise you that in this lifetime, I will do everything I can to build a bridge on which I'm walking towards you and your people. I promise you that I will do everything I can to discover and share the values we hold in common that bring us together to strengthen us. And I promise you I will do everything I can to create rituals that heal historical wounds. And she laid her hands on me. She took my microphone and said, I need to forgive. And so that was the beginning. And everyone in the group found the need to forgive and to reconcile the gospel. Give, self-give, and forgive. And everyone in the different religions started to weep. Now, I think that touched the human heart in such a way that we're moving now towards the meaning of reconciliation. And that means to hear each other's pain as well, for us to have a genuine reconciliation. Yeah.
I have a question from my studio audience. Ma'am, where are you from?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Good to have you here. And your question?
For Father Scerbo. Father, what message do you think Father Serra would have for religious today?
Oh, it's funny you should ask that question, because I was meditating on that very thing from an article that I just happened to bring. And this is an article, and I just want to read 3 sentences or more to you. Religious Life Tomorrow by Donna Markham. And this is my answer, expressed much better through this person, this woman. She says, congregations that commit to a mission of healing will enter the next century with vibrancy. Such a commitment calls us to uncomfortable places of disunity and pain, where we must act with courage to heal rifts between genders, races, cultures, and social classes in society as well as in our church. If we shrink from conflict and confrontation, or if our rage erupts in aggressive destruction, or if defensiveness stifles communication, we have allowed ourselves to be compromised and co-opted by our culture and have not freed ourselves to heal it. I think this is one of the ways in which religious communities will respond to a sign of the time, the need for reconciliation. In Rwanda, they are doing this. They're teaching the rest of the world, the Union of South Africa. And I think religious congregations, as she said, who can respond in that way to be agents of reconciliation will go into the next century with vibrancy.
We have another caller. Hello, John? John, are you there?
Hello. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
John. How are you?
Oh, good. Father Mitch, God bless you. God bless everybody.
Yeah, and what is your question?
Yeah, my question would be, and I would like to particularly hear Jim, our guest, talk about this. I was wondering if historical accuracy is up there if you make a spiritual film, or sometimes when people are making a spiritual film, they kind of want to rewrite history but keep it spiritual. And I wondered how he felt about that, and if he could comment, and the father too, please.
So the question is, how do you do a story like this without becoming biased in favor of the spiritual message?
Right. Like, what's the role of historical accuracy in the balance with the spiritual point that you're making?
Well, it's got to do with the difference between facts and the truth, really. my job is to go back to the primary sources, and I did go back to the biography that Pelot wrote of Serra, who lived in his time and with him, for scenes, for incidents that I felt we could dramatize and that I thought had a kernel of truth to them. So those scenes are all based on actual things that Pelot wrote about, for them, maybe not 100% of them. In other cases, I read between the lines a little bit to try to understand what Serra might probably have done in a given situation, given everything else that I'd read about him. The answer is, well, am I pro Serra? Sure. I mean, I think he was a great man. It doesn't mean I'm pro-colonialist. It doesn't mean I think everything that happened was just wonderful. I think there was a conflict. There was a tragic conflict of cultures that took place. But that's history. Cultures don't sort of leave each other alone. They move into each other's spaces. They change each other. This isn't just what happened in California. It's happened all over the world since time immemorial. They change each other, and their values affect each other. No apologies for promoting a man who I think brought a message of reconciliation and forgiveness into a culture that had its own value system, but where that might not have existed. So I hope that answers the question. That's the best I can say.
Yes.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's very important to me is how do you get those extreme views of history where the missions, according to some, are concentration camps and the missions are utopias where everything is fine. I think the mixture is where reality really is in the experience of pain, which we just talked about. And the question is, how do you hold light and darkness in the same hand and still allow God to name your identity as good? And I think only a contemplative, a man of prayer, can hold that tension.
All right. You have a question from our studio audience. Sir, where are you from?
Louisiana.
Good to have you here. And what's your question?
How did Father Junípero Serra die, and at what age?
He was 71 years old. He died in 1784 at Carmel, Mission San Carlos Borromeo, which is near Monterey. He was born in 1713 on the island of Mallorca, Palma, Mallorca. He was born in Petra, Mallorca.
But what did he die from?
Best we can tell, it was a combination of old age and the infirmity of his leg, and he also had some severe problems breathing, his chest. He had practiced self-mortification and had not lived an easy life. 71 was an old man. Yes. And I think you'd have to say he died of natural causes after having lived that kind of life.
Yeah, I think life expectancy then was in the mid-40s. Okay. So to live to be 71 was, not horrifically long old age. Right. They knew of older people, but it was advanced. And life was tough. I mean, certainly I've seen people in the third world that you look at and say, wow, they're about 50, 55, and in fact, they're 30. So the harshness of life, aged people, and this didn't have much easy access to hospitals.
No.
Yeah.
I have another question, and of course our audience knows you, Tom. What's your question?
Well, first of all, I want to say, gentlemen, it is a privilege and a blessing to review the program. And I also want to say I think people will be drawn in not only your storytelling, Father's analysis, but also Mr. Mora, his presentation, his portrayal of Serra. I think people will really be captivated by that. Right. My question is the character of Serra, the person of Serra, someone who leaves, I think of like Damien Molokai, who leave everything to go to a new country for all the things that he had to go through in Mexico, in California. You mentioned the grappling with the government officials, the soldiers and all of that, his own physical infirmities, and yet he not only endures but flourishes. The power of positive thinking is not going to get you too far as a missionary. I think it really shows the faith that this is a real reality, this faith that he has, that grace working in his life. And I'm wondering, in studying this man so closely, how has it impacted both of your lives?
Well, I'm acutely aware that you've kind of turned the tables on me. I'm used to pointing a camera at somebody and asking them a question like that. But I'll go first and be quick.
That's the advantage that we have because we own the cameras.
Actually, this project had a big impact. During the course of this project, I lost two important people, my father and my brother-in-law. And during the course of making it, they didn't participate in the project, but the loss of those people had a big impact on me, and it affected the project because I began to think more deeply about things like our mortality, the shortening timeline that we all have, and I think it impacted me just to think more deeply about these things and not do them in just strictly a professional way, I guess, but more of a personal way.
Father Serra freshens my heart every day as I remember the ways in which, as a young boy, he overcame asthma. I had asthma as a kid, so he overcame that disability, and he became a great preacher. And just turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones at every moment of the journey, leaving everything he had known, ready to go on with zeal, to bring a treasure to another part of the world and to receive the treasure of that world in the people that stole his heart. And I think what he touches me deeply is, number one, his love for the Eucharist. He had a tremendous love for the Eucharist, Jesus in the Eucharist. That was his anchor that enabled him to go forward and never turn back for the love of God. And then his devotion to Our Lady, especially in the saving of the mission San Diego on the Feast of St. Joseph when the ship came in and saved the missions. He had a great love for the saints, the communion of saints. He wore this cross, and on the back of the cross he had the relics of the saints that were closest to him: St. Francis, St. Clare, St. Bernardine of Siena, St. Pascal Balin, St. Francis of Solano, the great missionary to Peru, and two blessed, Blessed John Duns Scotus and Blessed Raymond Yule. These were his models. And so the saints that were so close to him, and he wanted to go to the New World to reinvigorate his life as a novice, because the novitiate reinvigorated his life. And that experience as a novice brought him to go and discover a new land, a new frontier, and bringing the faith.
Now, is that the actual cross?
This is a replica.
Oh, it's a replica.
The real one is in Petra, his hometown in Mallorca.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I think, that's an element, one of the questions that we had in terms of the message of Father Junípero Serra for us today is certainly Blessed John Paul, and then Pope Benedict, and now Pope Francis are all calling us to the new evangelization, which is not so much an evangelization of societies outside, but our own society, re-evangelizing people who may have been baptized and raised Christian or have a vague Christian background. Many baby boomers gave up their faith and never passed it on to their children. And this is our task, to be missionaries. And as you say, to see in that the revitalization of our own faith as we proclaim to others. I just want to make sure that we let everybody know, because we're just running out of time here, that this is called Serra, ever forward, never back, which is based on his motto. And this is going to be on tonight at, I believe, at 8:30 Eastern Time. Or is it 9:30 Eastern Time? I think it's 9:30 Eastern Time and 8:30 Central Time. Yes, 9:30 Eastern Time. We'll show the first of these. And if you are interested in getting the whole video, again, go to EWTNreligiouscatalog.com or call them at 1-800-854-6316. You know, it's gone by quickly.
Yeah,
thank you both
very
much for coming all the way from California.
It's been a pleasure.
To share, not only to do this work, but to share it with us. And Father, would you join me in blessing our audience? May Almighty God bless you and keep you and cause His face to shine upon you. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You know, we can present movies like this and all the other programs that we do because this is your network. It is brought to you by you. You make it possible. So please keep us in between your gas bill, electric bill, and cable bill, and we'll pay our bills too. Thank you.